Welcome to the Present and Sober podcast with your hosts, Sam Goldfinch and Ellie Crow. If you want to make your life bigger, not smaller, then this is the podcast for you. If you can sense that you're destined for more and you're curious about how drinking could be holding you back, listen in and come on this journey with us. Through the interplay of mind and body practices, we will help you elevate your daily life and discover the wonder and potential of going alcohol-free. Let's make life bigger together.
So, Mr. Sam, are you ready? Because he's been for an extra wee.
Yeah.
And he's gone and he said, fuck, I've got to take my teeth out.
And water.
And get some water. Then he had to get rid of Rob's
Not my
pajamas.
actual teeth, by the way.
So, are you finally ready now, Mr. Sam?
Yeah.
Good. Right. I'm going to start off today's wonderful episode with another fantastic review.
Oh, it's so good you remember. I literally forget every week.
Well, it's my joy. It's my joy.
It's your job.
Reading these. My joy and my job. I was going to try and join those words together, but you can't really, can you? I'll leave that with you whilst I read out the review. So this review is titled Sober Curious. Great show and hosts. As a newly sober curious person, I've really enjoyed the content, picking and choosing from the start. Episodes that resonate with me on my little journey has been both educational and informative. Keep up the good work. And that's from Marbella Max. Thank you. And they are in Spain. Hola.
Marbella then, not Marbella.
Didn't I say Marbella? It's not spelled like Marbella. It's spelled like Marbella.
Yeah, but that's because that's Spanish Y, isn't it? Yeah.
I thought Marbella was just one L, not two.
Oh, I don't know, but two
anyway.
L's in Spanish is a yeah, and I don't know.
Oh, is it? Oh, maybe
I think so.
I've just I'll probably right
just,
up then.
I'll probably just, well, no, because I would have just read it and thought that was their name as well. I would have just said Marbella. Someone reached out to me the other day and said that they loved the show, but they thought we waffled a bit at the beginning. That happened.
Wow.
So yeah, but the thing is, just as a bit of comment, I think what had happened was they didn't really know that we're into the waffling. So yeah, I mean, a lot of people do like the waffles. So I think they're probably here to stay, aren't they? Most likely.
Yeah. If you don't like waffles, you're gonna have to fast forward the first bit.
Yeah, that's it. You could basically just
the beauty of technology.
Yeah, get through the bit at the beginning where Ellie's having a waffle about nothing. It's never me. Anyway, let's go.
So thank you for the lovely review. And today we're talking about where's all my friends gone? Where have they gone? Stop drinking. I've got no friends left. They all abandoned me, deserted me.
We had a few ideas, didn't we? We said, where have they all gone? Or where are they going to go? Is another thing. This worry of like, oh God.
That was my big worry. In fact, so this is going back to December 2019. Seems like a long time ago. I'm like looking off into the middle distance. So this was for those that don't know, this was my intro to discovering the work of Annie Grace and This Naked Mind. And for the first time, realizing that all the things that I thought about alcohol might not be true. And so rather than the prospect of not drinking, rather than that being some form of punishment, for the first time I had this glimpse of, whoa, this could be, dare I say it, better. Like this might be a fantastic alternative. This might be not what I thought it was going to be. This could be very exciting. And I was totally relieved because what had happened was I discovered the science of alcohol, how it works with the brain and body, the fact that the biggest belief that I had, alcohol relaxed me, was totally not true, completely disproved. And so it didn't make sense for me to continue drinking in the way that I was. And I felt a huge degree of relief, but then that was followed very closely by a level of fear because my brain had already jumped out into the future for me. So this is all like happening in a matter of moments, but I'm already out in the future. Like you could say this is my day one, like not drinking. yeah, I've already decided that when I see my friends in a week's time or a month's time or 6 months' time, they're not going to want to spend time with me anymore because I'm a non-drinker. And interestingly, I think a lot of that was based upon like that old version of me that felt that alcohol was the kind of thing that connected people, that, you know, I was looking at relationships that all we'd ever done really is drink together. And if it wasn't a drinking occasion, we'd make it a drinking occasion. So it's quite natural to then wonder what's going to happen. And of course, the mind will make up all sorts of things that are going to happen, which aren't necessarily true. For sure, there's going to be change, but it might not be what you think it's going to be. So we want to talk about all of that today because it's a really important subject, because we're all these spiritual beings in human bodies and we like to connect with other people. We're meant to.
Love it. Good intro. Not much
Thanks,
waffling
buddy.
either. Straight to it.
Tried to taper it down for your friend.
Talk about something like sure we can get in some kind of, I don't know why it's always an animal wearing something odd. Have you noticed?
A duck in a nappy.
That's too funny.
And that's a diaper for our American friends.
I was wondering if there was a different word for a duck as well. A duck in a diaper. You've got alliteration there. That's better anyway. Oh Christ, she's off. There we go. I'll take it back.
That's Orville, isn't it?
I
wish I could fly right up to the sky, but I can't. You can. I can't. That was the first. You know, do you remember singles, or are you too young for singles?
What, like on
records?
Yeah. Well,
vinyls.
I mean, I think I do tapes. I go back as far as tapes.
Well, I'm old enough for vinyl, and my first vinyl single was Orville. I wish I could fly. And I also had Postman Patton on the B-side of that was Come On and Fix It With Me. That was Ted.
I had
Emma Gilmore will recognise all this and she'll love it.
She will. My first ever tape that I had was I think it was well, there was stuff that my mum had that I listened to, but the Space Jam tape.
Cliff Richard.
It was like Elton John, that kind of thing. She still does. She loves it. Bit of Elton John, Phil Collins.
I like Phil.
Bit of like sort of emotional kind of ballad stuff. That's a big thing. My mum just loves music, but I had the Space Jam tape, and had R. Kelly on it. I Believe I Can Fly. So
I don't think we're allowed to talk about him these days, are we?
Had a few others on.
Rolf Harris, was he on it as well?
Out there.
Prince Andrew.
Funnily enough, he didn't get onto there. Anyway, moving on. Right, Friends. Right, Friends. He says. But do you know what? The first thing, I don't know if we're going to go in order. Maybe we will. We don't normally, do we? Let's see if we can. I was saying this thing about how sometimes it's really hard to know. You think to yourself, oh shit, like, am I going to have any friends left? Is everyone going to disappear? In my experience, there have been a few people who it's become quite clear that the only thing that we had in common was drinking or going out and getting blitzed. But it's a fraction of the people that I've realized that we had something deeper going on. And then it takes a little while for those relationships to kind of reconfigure and figure out how they're going to. And there's a lot here actually, because they've deepened and they've become a lot cooler. And they've just changed, and sometimes it took a bit of time. But yeah, I think it is worth acknowledging that there might be a few relationships where you realize they tend to just fall away. It doesn't, to me anyway, it just sort of seemed to be this thing where over time they just kind of fell away. And I think when I first stopped drinking, I was away teaching abroad and stuff, and so a lot of the relationships I had were really, really built around alcohol, whether they were kind of like quite shallow relationships or quite deep ones. Yeah, I don't know if you've got anything to reflect on that. I've got a whole host of stuff to reflect on how relationships have deepened and how they've improved and got better.
Oh yeah, and this is like, that's the thing to really hold on to, that when you have that fear come up and your brain's trying to determine what's going to happen, just breathe into that and remind yourself that that's not where you're at right now. And there's infinite possibility of what may happen. And that deepening of relationships, we'll talk about that a lot, because it's really profound and it's really cool. It's really exciting. It's really beautiful. And your life will change in so many ways because of it. But like I do get that real fear of either we're not going to connect in the same way, they're not going to want to be with me, or I'm not going to want to be with them. But it doesn't need to mean the end of a relationship. The thing is, there's so much in life that, you know, we want to cling on to things the way that they are. We want things to stay as they are. We want some stability. And is it Pema Chodron that said there's no firm ground to stand on? But there isn't. Like, everything's in a constant state of shifting and changing, even if it's imperceptible. So the one thing that you can count on is that things are going to change. They're changing now, whether you realize it or not. But that doesn't have to be a bad thing. You get to choose, right? You get to choose whether you see it as something that is to be feared or something that's to be embraced and seen as a real opportunity for your own growth.
Yeah, that's so true. And whether it's friends that are having, you know, suddenly have kids, or people that move, people that kind of just suddenly they're like, we're moving to Australia, or, you know, people are. I think that this is one of the things as well, is as we start to figure out what we most want from life. Yeah, a lot of those things change anyway. Like I'm sure my bro won't mind me mentioning this, but I know that he found that even amongst his friends who, you know, it's not that any of them really even stopped drinking or anything like that, but they stopped partying in the way that they had before. They weren't going to like be going out to drum and bass gigs and you know, and partying until God knows when in the morning. Cause it just kind of, I don't know. I can remember having that thought when I was like 18, 19, 20, like, oh, I'm never going to stop doing this. I'll be doing this forever. And then like a few years later, I'm like, I'm fucking stopping this. There's no way I'm doing this shit forever. And yeah, I think it is worth knowing that as well. And often, I don't know, like sometimes where a lot of when I went away and when I was teaching, there were people there who were still living the life that they lived in their 20s, who were in their 50s and their 60s, but they were hanging out with people in their 20s, which is not like, and that's not like, I'm not saying that that's a bad thing by at all, but I do think there are a group of people who in getting caught up in all of that and being unable to change, being able and feeling unable to let go, you get caught in that. You can get trapped in that, right?
I had memories of going to a Happy Mondays gig randomly. This would have been probably maybe about 4 years ago, because it was just before I stopped drinking. And interestingly, it was one of those moments that I can look back on now and see it was the dawning of the end. Because I was out with my friend and we were just having like summery evening cocktails and what have you, a bite to eat. Somebody got in touch, one of her friends, and said, oh, we've got these spare tickets for the Happy Mondays, do you want to come? And we're like, fuck yeah, that'd be awesome. Like, because we're thinking it's going to be like it would have been in our 20s. And so it meant that then we were staying out longer than we'd intended. And I was getting that, which I couldn't see at the time, but I can see it now, that, you know, when you've kind of hit a level of drinking where you then kind of stop enjoying it. And it felt like I had to keep going because I needed to be able to be fun and lively and stay out. And when we got to the actual gig, the people that we were with were consuming other substances, shall we say, and I wasn't. And so I felt a disconnect because I wasn't effectively in the same room as everybody else,
drinking all those Red Bulls.
Yeah. And then I went into like the main part of from the bar into the main part where the gig was, and there I am like trying to soak in the Happy Mondays, which was Oh God, I love the Happy Mondays, but it was a bit ropey.
They've never really stopped, have they?
No, they haven't. They haven't.
I don't think so. Anyway, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong.
The yeah, it was it just felt a little tired and a little sad. And I'm kind of like looking around at the people around me, and like everybody predominantly is, chewing their own face.
Were you in Manchester?
No, it was in Cambridge.
Manchester.
It wasn't in Manchester, no, it was in Cambridge. And
Okay.
then there was this guy that was kind of like lurking round all of us, being entirely inappropriate and handsy and all the rest of it. And I was just like, oh my fucking God, this is just awful. Like, this is supposed to be good. It's bloody awful. And so that is like one of those events that was like really like totally unexpected. But even though unexpected, I then built up these expectations of what it was going to be like. And then felt complete disconnect. And then, of course, you've got all the physiological stuff going on from consuming alcohol. And but the reason I was thinking of that was because of that kind of like being stuck in time. Like I remember saying to my friend afterwards, like, fucking hell, like you got people there that would have been caning it in the 20s that are now, like I'm early 40s and they were older than me. So what, like you in your 50s and you're acting like you're in your 20s. And I just felt this real discomfort with it. I mean, that's me judging other people, so there's probably partly to do with that. But judging other people, I'm judging myself, right? And that realization I was coming to was, I can't remember whether it was probably before Vegas, but I went to Vegas. This was like my last hurrah for my friend's wedding. And it was the first time I'd been away from kids at all. And a bunch of us in Vegas for a few days, all drinking like we were in our 20s. And at the time, it seemed like it was utterly hilarious and fun and raucous and all of that. But I remember coming home just thinking, like, that isn't me anymore. That's just not me anymore. Like, it doesn't look good. Not that I'm just interested in how I look, but I am interested in being the best person that I can be. And how does that align with being the best parent that I can be and, blacking out. And so I have no regrets. I have no regrets at all, but it's like we have these little taps on the shoulder, like, maybe it's time for number 7 to come in. Your turn's over.
Yeah. and well, it's true that stuff's going on, whether or not we stop drinking, etc. And so I don't know, I found that I think I sort of joked about this before, but it's true. I find myself getting used a lot. I get used as the friend who can go out for a wholesome lunch and a good chat. Or so, for example, it was quite funny when I went away on a stag do literally like 2 weeks ago, 18 lads. I'm the only person not drinking. And, like it's funny, you get to see all the different like things that can play out. And it wasn't like, it's more of a kind of like nice lunches and, golf style stag than, some of your classic stuff that you might get. But there was a lot of drinking going on and stuff like that. But it was, you could see that even people, some of the guys were going at it like they used to, but you just see what it's like in the morning and how much you have to suffer because of that. And I was thinking the other day, I was talking to someone how this is a much more zoomed out picture. But really, if you think about the lifetime of a drinker, if somebody were to drink for their entire life, I think we kind of have this idea that people, in fact, we don't really think about it. But the truth of the matter is people either drink less and less and less because they can't take it and it's messing them up. And if they're drinking a lot, they might get some kind of drinking related illness, or it kills us early. Or, and I mean, what I mean by that is, if someone's still drink, you don't find many 80 or 90-year-olds going out there you can't do it. But we don't think about that. We think it's just something that's manageable for a lifetime, but actually it's impacting us that across the whole board. So all that said, just to kind of come back to what we were chatting about, is that change is happening anyway. It's nothing to be afraid of. And actually, often things can take a little bit of time. So if I think about some of my friendships, they might have taken 6 months or a year of, it's not like we didn't see each other, but it took that long for them to kind of recalibrate and figure out, but for the better, I have much better conversations, much deeper connection. I see people and have quality time. And that's awesome. And it's a really big difference to how things used to be. You see someone a few times a year or once a month or whatever, go out and get blottoed. And then, you can't remember what happened, or it's not like you are really connecting with each other anyway, right?
Yeah. Well, this is it. There's an opportunity to kind of take stock of, so when you embark on being sober curious, taking a break from alcohol, it's a really wonderful time to start to connect with yourself in a way that you possibly haven't for a long time, and start to recover what's really important for you. I really like the word that you use, recalibration, because that is what's happening. And we're kind of called to consider in all facets of our life what we're really for, and to really start to cultivate some discernment around what's important, what's meaningful, what's aligned with who we are and who we want to be. So it's a wonderful opening. We need to be with ourselves through the natural fear and anxiety that's brought up through the process, which goes back to my original point of, even if we don't feel like things are changing, they always are. And even if we don't feel like we're changing, like we're meant to evolve and grow. And that standing still, that stagnation that I felt towards the end of my drinking career, like it became so painful that it wasn't possible to stay there anymore. So we're much better to embrace the transient nature of life and the fact that we are called to this wonderful path of growth and enlightenment, and get amongst it.
You got it. I love it. So
What's the hand thing about?
I was just about to start,
talking about big fish, little fish in a box.
Yeah, cardboard box, not in a box. Bloody hell. What's going on? Big fish, little fish, cardboard box. It'd be a bit
weird if it was in a box, wouldn't it?
You're well out of Raven date, you. Big fish, little fish in a box.
In fact, I was doing that at the caravan site at the weekend. They have this thing where the kids are doing like the party dance on the dance floor, and then the troopers go, "Well, who's missing? The grown-ups." So you've got to go and get your grown-ups. So then the little kids come running over, drag me down to the dance floor, and it was big fish, little fish. And then they did that bit that I'd completely forgotten about: stack the shelves, shopping trolley, stack the shelves, shopping trolley. So I was getting like right into raving days. Awesome.
Do you ever have to do that? Is it Big Purple People Eater? Do you remember that?
Yes, they did that.
Did they do that?
Yes.
I haven't done that for years. I used to know all the words to that.
Oh, yeah, they did that. And then they have this one about 1001 nights, which apparently is big on TikTok at the minute. So Pearl keeps going, I need to get Sam, because Mummy, you're not on TikTok. So me and Sam will do the dances. Yeah, you can do the dances.
Well, I can't imagine I'll be doing the dances. I haven't really been on there. I've sort of pulled back, sort of realised that more to life than TikTok videos, aren't there? Anyway, we digress. I'm so good at that word now. Right. Over here,
let's just celebrate that for a moment.
For anyone who knows, I always used to say the wrong thing.
Oh, no,
I've divulged. No, I haven't. Digressed. Yeah. So, to stop us from digressing, I would like to share this piece of vital information. There will be those of us who feel like, yeah, you don't like what this conversation right now. You don't get it though. I really don't have anybody around me right now, or the group of people that I'm with are heavily into drug use or something, and I want to separate myself, and I feel like I might be alone. So we'll talk about that in a minute. Want to kind of absolutely say that. One thing, this is just something that I think is really interesting for men, and I'm sure it'd be interesting to get your perspective on this. If you are kind of like, oh shit, everybody's still drinking, and I feel like I'm going to fall out of touch or lose contact with everybody, etc. I can promise you that there's a bunch of people in your friendship group that are thinking like you or similar to you. Now, this is I'm sure this is for everybody, but I've noticed, particularly with groups of guys, this kind of like bullshit kind of toxic crap that starts happening with a group. If you organize to go out and meet people one by one and have real vulnerable conversations, even with one or two people, and they'll open up with you as well, you'll find that there's loads of people that are thinking like you. And then over time, it gets to a point where it's just like, yeah, okay, Sam doesn't drink. So that's just a tip that and it's something that I didn't really do that early on. But I think if I were to sort of go through that process again, then I might sort of just invite people out for a coffee more and have a chat with them and open up to those people I felt comfortable with more quickly. I don't know what it's like for women and if that's a similar kind of vibe, but I think it's definitely true for big groups of lads who can very much get stuck into that like drink bollocks.
Yeah, I think the same is definitely true of women, and I've had a lot of clients I can think of who were approaching here comes the big first night out with the friendship group, and or the first night out with the friend that I've always connected over, Chardonnay with or whatever. And then they've had the conversation that they've built up to be something, and the response on the other side has been almost like, oh, thank God. Thank God I was trying to dry out myself, or just genuine interest. And of course it does play out the other way. Of course there are the reactions that we get that kind of more telling about somebody else's relationship with alcohol and where they might be struggling and not in a place to want to face that yet. But whatever your choices are, you don't need to be worried about the impact that it has on someone else. And if you can just for a moment consider that, like, if you're anywhere down this path and you're recognizing just how rich your life is becoming as a result of it, then it's worth the discomfort to present that opportunity to somebody that you care about and somebody that you love, not in a soapboxy kind of way, but just in a, here's a possibility. You will inspire people from afar, even or closely, even if they don't let you know specifically. But you're another thing that I was thinking about is you're not responsible for other people's experiences. There was a guy in one of our path groups. I really enjoyed talking to him. He always came to coaching just wide open, really happy to share his experience and with a beginner's mind, or like always highly coachable, willing to learn all the time. And he came to coaching one day because he'd had this experience of being on a night out, and he felt the pressure to drink because he was worried about how everybody else felt about his decision to not drink. And so having that discussion with him around, you're not responsible for other people's experiences. You're not, and I felt this a lot in my 20s because I was traveling the world with my job, taking people out for dinner and drinks and all the rest of it, entertaining people. And so I felt like I had to live out this bloody persona of being the entertainer. And that's a fucking hard job to give yourself, to be responsible for everybody else's pleasure and everybody else having a good time. But it's very, very common that people feel that. And it isn't your job. It isn't your job.
Not only that, none of us are powerful enough to do that anyway.
Exactly.
So it's like because we're all living from the inside out, because we're all just feeling our thinking all the time. I could go out and have that responsibility, but if Uncle Tom is being a grumpy twat, it's just what he's doing.
Sorry,
right?
Uncle Tom.
Sorry, Uncle. Any Uncle Toms. But that's just how it's going, and there's nothing that we can do. And I think I sometimes offer this thing up of the you think about the host who's completely stressed out, who's trying to make sure that everybody's having a good time, and the helicopter going around everywhere, and they don't have fun, and they're highly, they're stressing themselves out about it, right? Because of their stressed out thinking. Now, if you think about, well, where were you more likely to enjoy yourself? You're more likely to enjoy yourself in a party where that's the host, or you're more likely to enjoy yourself where the host is calm and relaxed and just. And do you know, it's a big thing. I think any kind of that kind of codependent orientation, thinking, innocent misunderstanding as to how our experience is being created, the idea that we are powerful enough to do that, releasing that, it's everything that you've been trying to get through doing that is available to you in spades the moment you release it. That's the real interesting thing that happens. And I think even now, I think with family dynamics and certain things like that, I think for some of us, many mums that I've worked with, they've felt as if it absolutely is their responsibility to make sure that everyone's okay and that everybody's happy and all those kinds of things. We can have responsibility as parents to kind of feed our kids and all that kind of stuff. But actually we emit much more kind of natural, just security and confidence when we're feeling like that, and then there's a resonance to that. We just wake people up to that space where that's always available in others as well. So it's a really interesting thing you bring up, and we're about to dive into some really cool stuff the second half of this podcast, actually, because it looks to me that this isn't just about literally how many friends we do or don't have. It's also about our relationship to being alone. It's about our relationship to what friends mean. And all those kinds of things too. They seem to be very important, particularly in this alcohol-free journey too. So yeah, we're just about to go down one of them rabbit holes, I think, mate.
Yeah. Get
you ready?
What do you wear to go down a rabbit hole?
Rabbit ears.
Rabbit ears and bobtail.
Yeah, Vaseline.
What the fuck?
You can get in it easier.
What kind of rabbit holes do you go down, mate?
Normal ones, but how big are the rabbits near you then?
Giant. I saw a massive hare the other day.
You've been down. You've been in.
It was goading the beagles.
The hares live in holes as well. They're amazing hares.
Burrows.
Burrows. Yeah, well, you know what I meant. Fucking hell. Tomato. Burrows, holes. Come on. Everyone knows what I mean. Anyway, so. I think we should I've just got one outrageously simple, super top tip for anybody who's like, well, there was the tip before about sort of talking to people individually, one by one, can be very helpful. You don't have to talk to everybody, but I think that can be, you don't have to talk to a whole group. Talking to people outside of events as well. So if there's something coming up, just pinging the person whose party it's going to be and just letting them know what's what. I'm doing a 90-day challenge or whatever, and just getting in there early. That's a super simple thing. But as it comes to actually making friends, if you feel like I'd like to really make some mates who don't drink or for whom drinking isn't always the center of attention, like the central part of going out or whatever. I know this seems outrageously simple, but locally or however local you can, or online these days, go and find something that you're interested in, from art class to pottery to climbing to, it doesn't matter what, but basically go and find anything with an ing on the end that you're interested in doing, and just talk to people. The same is true of dating as well, because the things a lot of people are like, oh God, how am I going to go dating? Or go and find something that takes the focal point off of you two if you feel uncomfortable at the beginning. Even hiking, something like that, even actually having a walk, that kind of stuff. Because what you'll find is most people going to running clubs or going to wherever, they may drink, they may not, but you're going to find people who are interested in the activity first and foremost.
Exactly.
And that's a great way to make mates. And if you're anything like me, or anything how I used to be, where I used to get a little bit caught in my insecurities about social anxiety and stuff like that, having something to do, I just always found it easier to be myself and take the piss out of myself and all that kind of stuff when there was something else going on.
Yeah. I remember you talking about dancing as well, and that's a great place to, like, you can't drink and dance at the same time, or you can, but it's going to be more Happy Mondays than it is salsa dancing.
You'll tend to find that community generally, there will be people that drink in it, but basically you're either going to be like the sloppy person who can't dance, or like people don't, because and also like, you know, it's exercise effectively. Now Robin gets back, she's been dancing for 5-6 hours. Sometimes it's you don't really want to be drinking. You want to be drinking water to keep yourself hydrated, right? So there will be something. And if you're people, for anyone who's listening here going, yeah, but there isn't anything near me, this day and age, that is that's what we would call a limiting belief, right? There will be something somewhere for you, even if it's an art class online. The amount of people I know that on a Sunday morning join these really cool like community group art things and do like a Zoom art session or something like that. Like like there will be something somewhere for you.
A friend of mine's in rock choir, which just sounds freaking awesome. But the byproduct of these things, it's not just, you know, getting out there and being around other people and making new connections and friends, but activities like that have a really wonderful effect on the nervous system. You know, singing, moving the body, getting into water. One of my dearest clients, she got into kind of got her in the polar bear club, started going swimming in the sea, and joined this, I just love the name, joined the Blue Tits up your way.
Yeah, we get in I know they they do, they go dipping in the sea in Cromer and that on Boxing Day and stuff, don't they?
Oh no, they're up. Oh, I don't know if they're down this
way
way
up this
as well.
way.
They're up in Merseyside.
Oh,
Merseyside.
Oh
God,
I thought there was a group. Mersey. There might be a few Blue Tits about, but that's pretty cool. Yeah, all that kind of stuff. Like it's, and when your brain goes, yeah, but, and or if you're shitting yourself on the way, like been there, done
Not
that.
Literally.
If you're literally shitting yourself on the way to salsa class, go home and sort yourself out and go the following week. Give it 7 days. But you know, if it's metaphorical and it's like a representation of how anxious you are, I know, trust me, I've been there. Do you know what's really interesting? And I think I spoke about this. I can remember first time I went to the class around the corner with Rob here, and I was like, you know, when you're on there, and I was like, fucking, she was like, oh, I'm a bit tired. I was like, well, maybe we should come next week then. She was like, no, it's okay. I'm just, well, maybe. And I'm like, yeah, well, we could just go and hang out and have a cup of tea on the lane around the corner. No, come on. And then you get in there, and 2 minutes after it started, having a whale of a time, good fun. There will be something. There will be something for you out there.
I just had a vision of a whale salsa dancing. Imagine that.
Well, imagine that. So, yeah, I think that's all really important. And I think the other thing that I've got a feeling that this may also, could potentially be another podcast that we could jump into to talk more on this. But I think this question around I'm feeling lonely and because I think a lot of us, we, you know, maybe there's that night where the kids go and stay with dad, or where the husband or the wife is away for work on a Friday night, or there's all sorts of things. We hear them all the time because it's life, right? This stuff happens, and they're often a sticky point for people. And what they will say is, I feel lonely, or I feel, you know, and I think there's this really interesting thing to just ponder, where it's very possible, it's a very common experience where for a lot of us who've been drinking, where actually one of the reasons that we've been brought to this path of being alcohol free or sober curious is actually that we're lonely despite the fact that we're surrounded by people. So we're in the bar and there's hundreds of people there, but we feel lonely, or we're in a, you know, we feel like we're kind of not connected and yeah, and all these kinds of things. And yet we all know, if we look back into that, even if it's past experiences and stuff, there are those wonderful moments that we all have where we're alone in nature or whatever it is for us, and we feel completely connected. And we did record a couple of podcasts on connection a good old while ago now. I think we spoke about how, you know, this kind of myth that alcohol helps us connect with other people and like what's actually going on. But yeah, I think that journey of seeing that actually connection is constant. It's we're all connected, both to each other and to the world, and this incredible mystery that's playing out. There's no getting away with that. Like, you may feel disconnected, but it doesn't take away from the fact that you're a part of this magical tapestry that you see all around you. And
yeah,
that's worth knowing, because if you get lonely thinking, you'll get lonely feelings. Even if it's invisible thinking, you'll get the feelings. And then you might start pointing your finger and saying, this is because of the fact of this or that, and all these things, when actually underneath that at all times is this ability to feel this beautiful, deep connection. That doesn't mean you can't go and find mates. It doesn't mean, but actually just knowing that it's safe to feel that and experience it and go for a run and look at it and feel it and be with it is very powerful, because behind that is you, and also everything you need in order to figure out what connection and alignments you now want in your life. And there might be things that you don't want anymore. Like you said, mate, you really might not want to go and do those messy gigs that you've been up to for the last however many years, or the holidays, the way that you've done them. And take some courage. You have to ask yourself, what do I want from life now? What do I want from a Friday night now? Because I can promise you, coming from someone who literally being alone was always, I would want to be drinking or trying to, because I didn't know how to do it. These days, I love being with people and I love connecting, but solitude, which is very different to isolation as it looks to me, solitude is such a gift. Like I just love it. I luxuriate in it. I bloody bathe in it when I get the opportunity to do that.
Yeah. But that word, when I talk to people about, you need more of the 3 S's. And I'll try to remember what they are: silence, solitude, stillness.
I thought it's not sex then.
No, but that, interestingly, that is, we're going to have to do a separate podcast on that entirely, because that's a whole another thing. That would be a very big rabbit hole to go down right now. But that, those 3 things, silence, solitude, and stillness, people are fucking terrified of.
Yeah.
Because we don't allow ourselves to experience those things. We busy ourselves with, whether it's drinking, social media, Netflix, even some of the activities, even the activities, the running, the swimming, the whatever the things are, can be a form of trying to not necessarily run away from ourselves, but it's bypassing.
No doubt.
It's trying to fill this void. But the thing that I want to encourage people to do is to dwell in the void, to, at a pace that feels right for you, introduce stillness, silence, solitude, increasingly so, because then you start to recognize the distinction between what's absolute and what's relative. So if you are feeling lonely, then you're likely feeling lonely relative to what's going on, sort of very, close level. But if you can allow yourself to experience the feeling of loneliness without trying to change it, as you uncover what you were talking about, which is that you're always connected. Like there is no way that you can be alone. Then you're in that. I remember talking to Annie about this. This was a few years ago. And at the time, the way that I described it was, you only have, in this world, you only have your true self. That's it. Like everything else, everybody in your life is going to come and go. They're going to die. They're going to leave you. And we don't like to think or talk about those things, but it's true. You can't control that. So you can, as you said, you can be surrounded by people. You can still feel incredibly lonely. You're not, what you're looking for out there isn't out there. It's in here. And so you need that stillness, silence, solitude to uncover it, to connect back with it. And then, and this is this universal truth that there is something much greater that is within you, that is always, like, that is the constant. It is always there, always, throughout the most difficult experiences that you'll have in your life, the most tragic times. It's always there. It will always be with you, even beyond your final breath. And to know that, to have that, to be held in that. Like I've gone through some really shit times recently, as most people know. And it's still, it's still going to take some time to work through what I'm working through. And I, like every other, I was about to say human being, every other spiritual being in a human body with a nervous system, I have moments of acute anxiety, or I have moments where I'll feel fear. But I'm not afraid of allowing those emotions to be there, because I know that they're guiding me always. And I know that I'm being taken care of. I'm being held. I'm secure in this space of, I don't know how to put words to it, but it's that connection. It's just feeling utterly, like, even with the most awful things that can happen, you are totally and utterly safe and secure.
At the level of who you really are. Yeah. At the formless level. 100%. I think, like, I love Ram Dass. He talks about changing the channel and going up. And he's like, at level 1, you sort of, there's you and there's all these separate people around you and there's all these different things, whereas channel 1. And you flick to channel 2 and then you're looking at everybody's psychologies and like happiness and sadness, all this stuff. You flick another channel and you're kind of like starting to go out into cosmic level. You flick another channel and you're in the kind of one, the being. You look into another human's eyes and you see that there's a being in there and you're kind of like, how did you get in there? And you flick the next channel and then it's you looking at you, looking at you, looking at you, looking at you. And you flick the next channel and it's just oneness. You flick the next channel and it's the formless. And it's just, if you look at that mapping, physics now is starting to, there's some really powerful conversations happening in this world, in this realm now. The formless is something very difficult for us to wrap our heads around because it doesn't have a form to it. It's the nothingness from which everything comes. But that's who you are. That's who you are, and you will feel at the point where you understand it's you looking at you, looking at you. Like Jamie, he says, "There's that Teilhard de Chardin." Is that how you say the guy's name? I think it is. Quote that we're not humans having a spiritual experience; we're spiritual beings having a human experience. And Jamie slightly changes it and says, we're one spiritual being having 8 billion human experiences.
Yeah.
And that's the level from which you're always connected. And yeah, that's the thing. I think many people, they have the frame that they say, I am lonely. And what they innocently do is attach a statement of identity, truth, which is I am, which is formlessness, which is just beingness. And then they take a variable, which is lonely, happy, sad, hungry, all those things. And it gets fused together, but it's not fused. It's you're not lonely. You're a being who feels lonely sometimes. And in the same way that, you're not an angry person, you're somebody that experiences anger sometimes. In my life, I always identified as an anxious person. Now I see that, no, I'm just a being that experiences anxiety from time to time. Now, once it breaks from our identity, and once we realize, like you were saying, mate, that it's safe, and once we realize that we're feeling lonely because we've got lonely thought somewhere in the system, right? Now, whether it's unconscious or conscious or whatever's going on, because there are millions of people all around the planet right now, like we've said, surrounded by people feeling lonely, and lots of people completely alone, feeling deeply connected. So connect, and from that space of knowing that you're connected, different things will make sense to you. You'll want to hang out with people you want to hang out with. You'll stop picking and choosing repeated patterns that you want to get out of, perhaps, in terms of relationships, it can have a profound impact on that. And you'll really get the opportunity to listen and tune into your wisdom and you'll start naturally just inviting, you'll just start seeing different things about what you want in life. Like, I've got no interest in certain things anymore. I don't want to do that to myself. And I used to do all those things because I was completely scared to say no. And this whole JOMO thing, the joy of missing out, like my life, so much of that in my life now. Anyway, like what an awesome conversation. I think we've been nattering for quite a while, mate. Look at that. Something like getting towards an hour, I think, 50 minutes or something. Imagine how do you put up with me, right? Chatting away for all this time.
And then I get told off for waffling. Was I getting told off? Or
No, we weren't getting told off. They were being lovely. I think they were bigging up the podcast to the max. But I think for someone who would like, if you think about this, someone who'd stumbled across our stuff and they didn't sort of and hadn't kind of evolved or grown with the show, they might be like, what are they nattering about? Nattering about magpies in shiny shoes. But
oh, we've got something very exciting coming with the magpie with shiny shoes.
We do. Yeah. It's going to be great, and it's coming soon. I know that we've been saying because we're both very busy off the charts, and then the summer comes along, and you've got the kiddos, and all these things start happening. But there's over the course of the next few weeks and months, there's some cool stuff coming, and then there's going to be some very cool stuff definitely in the autumn. We think where we'll be
it's so big.
Yeah, but we'll be launching some stuff, because we've been running stay stops and we know a lot of people have been reaching out about those and things, but we've been doing this now for over 2 years, right? Podcasting every single week.
Have we missed our birthday?
Yeah, I think we did. That's classic.
Oh, shit.
Check us out. Sorry, we're going to have one.
But what this is, well, I think it's part and parcel of it. This year has just been a tricky year. Well, personally for me, it's been a tricky year. It's just meant that we haven't done things in the way that we might have liked to have done them.
So
that's okay.
Yeah, of course it is. So we haven't fully formed anything yet. There's a lot of discussions happening, but there'll be some very exciting things coming. And for anyone who would like to become more involved and get more access to us nattering, there'll be some stuff coming.
I've just had an idea. Maybe we could do a belated birthday party for us and invite some people along.
Yeah, I think our official one should have been on episode 104. So it just sort of like.
What are we on now?
Notice
roughly
106, 107. Imagine.
So that's just missed it then.
There's probably edging towards 100 hours of us out there in the world just talking. You could listen to us non-stop for nigh on 4 days if you wanted. Imagine that. Like, when people had those Lord of the Rings parties.
Did you just watch them all back to back? Imagine that a present and sober party.
Quick maths. 24. I was like, that goes into 100 roughly 4 times, doesn't it? So wasn't very hard on the mathematical front.
Oh yeah, I didn't even think of that. I was too busy trying to find out what episode number
This is why we missed our birthday. I'm pretty sure today's was 106 or 107 that's gone out this morning.
I find where it says it. Doesn't it say it somewhere? Oh, there. Yeah, it's 106.
There you go.
As of recording today.
So thank you for being here. This one will not be episode 106. This will be episode 108 or 9 or something like that. I don't know.
But you doing maths again.
I've been full of it recently. Absolutely mind-blowing, my maths. Yeah. Don't think there's much else to say other than get in that group, get in the old podcast group. Go and we've got a bunch of new people coming in and there's some great conversations going on in there. And we'd love to have you in there, right?
Yeah, we would, especially as we're just about to do a big birthday celebration, belated. Don't miss it. We'll have party hooters the lot.
Party hooters. Blue tits, party hooters. And
you're welcome to bring your blue tits or your party hooters with you. It's up to you.
Right. Love you all. See you all soon.
Adios.
Bye. I nearly ended the whole meeting.